I'm Mark Grosvenor, and I live in Jackson Hole, Wyoming with my wonderful wife Melissa and beautiful son Judson, and soon to have Wyatt with us on approximately March 30th. My grandfather on my mother's side was a banker, and I was born in Michigan and grew up in Southern California, a little north and east of San Diego. And my parents are about as nice a people as anybody has ever known. What did I want to be when I grew up when I was a kid? I believe was a businessman and a salesman. I always liked selling and working with people. I think I've learned the most about leadership and people skills from my father. Well, my biggest inspiration has probably been many people in association with mentors and people you can look up to and respect, but it began with my father. I just think he was a fine man, and is a fine man. I am 54 this year in August, and I really feel 30 and wished I felt 20. YPO has impacted my life in so many ways with so many wonderful relationships and friendships. You know, I have some good long-term friends that I have been close to for a long time, 20, 30, 40 years, but they're really can be counted on one hand. And in YPO, I don't have enough hands and toes to count my good, close friends. It's something that I really believe is a gift that's been given to me that I will cherish always. 49er meant to me, when I joined YPO, that I probably wouldn't stay in the organization long enough to get there. It just seemed like an awful long ways away. 49er means to me now like it was yesterday. And it's hard to believe that my time in YPO has gone so fast. I think what drove me to where I am today is, in looking back, I think it's something that begins very early in all of us. That's why we're here. It didn't happen that you became a president of a company. Judson, my oldest son, is 21 months old, and we plan to have him working here within the next 6 months or so. And he's going to have to put in a pretty much of a full day. YPO has helped me in my business by saving my business. Probably saving it several times, but I've mentioned the one. And YPO has gone on to give me depth and perception and understanding and a feeling of trust that I couldn't have gotten in any other way. And I think the confidence to call up almost anyone and talk with them and ask for help. I think asking for help is probably its greatest gift. What I like best about YPO is all the pretty girls. I just love going to chapter meetings, being around these young people and these pretty ladies, and I appreciate the association with the men and the bonding, but the women is really what I like. The advice I can offer to new members is worth about what it'll cost. But you may gain something out of it in that I think you must drink from it heavily. And you must participate and be involved and take your spouse or significant other on as many university trips as you can early on. Don't make the mistake of saying you're too busy or you haven't got enough time. Spend that time with your family and invest in yourself and in them by going and meeting the people at universities and participating in all aspects of YPO. I'd like to just say to the Colorado chapter that I thank you for allowing me to participate and be involved with all of you people in the Rocky Mountain area. And it's been a blessing in my life, and the friendships that I've developed here and the associations and the fun I've had, I can't thank you enough for. And I hope that the experience that you have will take longer to get to be a 49er, number one, and number two, that you will enjoy it as much as Melissa and I have.
My name is Jim Walker. I'm here tonight with my wife, Judith, to whom I owe all credit for any success that I've had. We have 7 children between us and live all together. That is me, Judith, Ben, Liz, Rob, Peter, Carson, Bailey, and Ellie in Cherry Hills Village. I am 52 years old, chronologically. I feel about 39 most of the time, 72 when I have to take care of the kids by myself. I was born and raised in Clearwater, Florida, which is a little town on the ocean front near Tampa. And when I went to school in Vanderbilt, which is in Nashville, Tennessee, I thought I had gone north. I'm embarrassed to admit I wanted to be a lawyer. In fact, I came very close to being a lawyer. I graduated from college, and Harvard Law School said they had a place for me, and I mean they had an acceptance for me, but they didn't have a place for me. So I spent the summer waiting for the word, and by the time the summer was over, they said they didn't have a spot, and I had a contractor's license. And ultimately ended up joining the family business, which is a metal manufacturing business, and ended up running that for about 15 years. And then moved to Denver because of a personal situation where our oldest son had a joint custody arrangement here in Colorado, and we weren't about to let him be out here by himself, so Judith and I, rather unexpectedly in terms of timing, moved out about 9 years ago, and have considered ourselves blessed that we made the move ever since. My business today is a packaging company. We sell basically anything that a shipping dock is going to need, and we sell it locally because you can't really ship that material very far. It's fairly generic. And we're in a commodity type business, so the only thing that distinguishes us from Brand X is service, so we try to be customer driven to the max. I think I've probably got a different take than most YPOers on accomplishments. I'm most proud of my family. It's larger than I thought it was going to be, and it happened in ways that I wasn't sure I had fully understood when we began, but more than anything, the fact that we were able to move out to Colorado and have the life that we do is something I'm the most proud of. YPO has had a surprisingly large impact on my life, all positive. I didn't know anything about YPO till I was almost 40 years old and learned about it in Florida. Joined the Florida chapter, which was kind of a different experience. The Florida chapter is totally divorced from the Colorado chapter experience. It's huge, it meets quarterly. I thought it was okay at that point, but I really didn't understand what YPO could be like. Having moved to Colorado, joining the Rocky Mountain chapter, and then the Colorado chapter, it's been a life-changing experience for me. I would not have met the people that I've met. I wouldn't have gone to the places that I've gone. I certainly wouldn't have done the things when I was there that you do when you're in a university or a setting like that. But YPO has absolutely been worth all the effort that it takes. And I think it takes effort if you're going to be successful in it, if you're going to really make it what it should be. Oh, When I joined, 49er meant something way out in the distance that only happened to old goats. I mean, just absolutely, it was like the sun will eventually burn out at some point in the future. It means a clerical error to me now. There must be something wrong with the accounting. I don't know what drives success. In my case, when I joined the family business, I was a real workaholic, and it was a natural thing for me. And financially, in that arena, I was probably more successful then in terms of what I could earn. And I thought that was just the greatest thing going. I view it in a totally different perspective now. And I have to give YPO some credit for that, because it's opened my eyes to things that were of interest that weren't simply financial. And one of the great things about YPO is you can always find somebody who's got more money than you do. You can find somebody who's got a bigger airplane or has done more things, or if you're going to go for 3 weeks, he's going to go for a month and a half. And it's wonderful because it absolutely prevents you from getting into that competitive mindset, because there really is no way to win. And I guess I'd say that my definition of what success is has changed, and so what drove it would have changed as well. This may sound sappy, but I think the best time in my life is now. I feel as good now as I've ever felt. I feel at home. I feel very lucky. Cruel and unusual punishment is about the best way to describe being kicked out twice. It's a real process, and it's just like the words 49er didn't mean anything when I first joined. There is a bit of psychological pressure when you're actually being forced to accept the rocking chair, and to have to do it twice is cruel and unusual. I would like to sincerely thank everyone in the Colorado chapter for allowing us to stay in as long as we have, for the experiences that we've enjoyed, and wish the chapter the absolute best of luck in the future.
Well, I think most of you know me, but my name is Eric Sipp, and I'm here, I'm told, this evening to be honored as a graduate of the Colorado chapter of the YPO. And my wife, Susan, is here with me. Susan and I live in Cherry Hills Village and have 2 wonderful young sons that are 12 and 13 years old. They're students at Kent School in the 6th and 7th grades. And, you know, it's getting tougher and tougher all the time for me to remember back to when I was a child, but I wanted to be a doctor for some odd reason. I'm not quite sure why. But I was fascinated with that profession, and that's what I wanted to pursue until I got into high school and started taking some of the chemistry and biology and some of the science coursework, and I found out that I fainted at the sight of blood. So I very quickly had to make a redetermination as to what I should focus on in my life. So that's when I started thinking about other things, is when I figured out if I was going to faint at the sight of blood, I probably wouldn't be a very good physician. I was born in Indianapolis, and when I was 8 years old, the family moved to a little town called Belleville, Indiana. We were a very lower middle class, some would even probably say poor, and the little part of Indianapolis where I was born and spent the first 8 years of my life would easily be categorized as a ghetto in today's terminology. Favorite gift I ever gave anybody was probably after I got out of the Army and had my first job and made a little money. I bought my parents a new kitchen, a new refrigerator, a new stove, a new washer and dryer, which they could never afford. And I still think about that from time to time. I probably was most afraid in my life when I was an infantry platoon leader in Vietnam and was responsible for the lives of the 25 or so men. The numbers changed, you know, from week to week, but being responsible for the lives of those men, I think, caused me to mature much beyond my 22 years at the time. When you think about it, having that kind of responsibility for those men at such a young age was a pretty scary set of circumstances. And particularly in a war like that, where it was pretty unconventional. It was there were almost no rules, and as a result, you really had to kind of be up and on your toes 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and that was pretty scary. I think the biggest benefit I've received from YPO has just been the people that I've met, the network that I've established, not only from a business perspective, but from a personal perspective as well. Many of the closest friends that Susan and I have today, I think, are a result of our YPO experience. I guess the advice I would have would be for any person who was running a business, whether they were in YPO or not, and that is have a good vision and stick to that, and try to surround yourself with good people, and don't discount the value of what your gut tells you. I think a lot of times in my career, my gut was telling me one thing, but the advice I was getting externally was telling me something else, and more often than not, my gut was giving me the right answers. I hope that this evening's activity has perhaps opened up or shed a little bit of light on me as a person and what makes me tick. I hope that you found it a little bit interesting and a little bit enlightening, and that I didn't put anybody to sleep.